So, John Frasco, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you again, Tom. Always a pleasure.
John and I met a couple of years ago at the Waterbury Chamber for a networking event, and we've been kind of friendly. And he's been on my podcast at TomHillRadio.com a couple of times, so I thought that qualified you to come on the Tom Hill Live program.
I'm glad I made the cut.
So tell us a little bit about what you do at Fidelity, and you're self-employed, correct?
Yes, I am. What I am is a commercial broker for commercial loans. Usually when people look for a loan, they usually go to your major banks, like your Bank of Americas, your Ion Banks, your Liberty Banks.
Ives Bank is in
Ives
Waterbury.
Bank
Used to
well.
be Savings Bank
in
in
Danbury. Yeah. And a lot of times they have more stringent requirements. So some of these people that may not make those requirements still need money, so they go to the private lending sector. And these are your smaller, up-and-coming banks. And usually what they do is they have a little bit ease on the parameters. They're a little bit more lax on credit score and things like that, net income and things like that, so that they can give these people an opportunity to create their business or enhance their business and become successful.
Yeah, the world of lending is very robust, wide. There's a million sources to get the money, but you have to be able to qualify to get the money. And we're going to get to that as we go. You're going to say?
No, I was going to say yes. It's usually a segment that everybody specializes in a particular segment of that lending market. So usually when you go to the private lenders, they're usually experts at that one area. So I mean, it's different than your Bank of America's. They know a little bit of everything, so they're more diversified in their.
And they're a global company
Global
with
as well,
thousands of employees. You're a one-man band with lots of resources, and you specialize in private lending. And we worked on all the products that you lend with. And if somebody wants to call us and ask questions about borrowing money, it's on the screen, or it'll be on the screen. And I threw it on the floor here, 203-753-7593, and I'll answer your phone and we'll take calls. On topic, please. And any real estate questions we can handle too, because John does loan on commercial real estate. We'll get to that. Let's start with your first product, which would be working capital, and I think we talked a little bit before about a restaurant application you had.
Yeah, it was a restaurant. A guy bought a pizza restaurant. He used his own money, which is usually very unusual. He had a couple of restaurants previous to this. So he used his own money and he bought the restaurant, all the equipment. And now he was opening it up. I think he opened it up last week or the week before. And now we needed a little money to keep they call it working capital. It's just so he can buy food and maybe pay a little extra for his employees and stuff, so he has a little financial resources available to him. So he contacted me for a loan. And what we did was we were looking at his financial statements, but since he's first starting, he's not generating any income, so it's kind of tough. So we had to get his working capital, we had to take a different approach. What we did was we went into the restaurant, we had him take a copy and a picture of all of his equipment.
Nice.
And have the serial number so that we know the age, where it was manufactured, how old it was. And what we did was, to get his working capital, we gave him a sales and lease back of his equipment that he had within the restaurant, so he got his working capital that way. Now that's a creative way of doing it. Usually, a business will be in business for 2 or 3 years and they'll have some type of net income, and then you could give them working capital based on how much net income we've made. Since he didn't have that, we had to go to plan B, which was do a sales and lease back on the equipment that he had within
And would that be called asset-based funding?
Yes.
Okay, so, and that's furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So if you don't have any debt on your FF&E, it's a chance to borrow money, but you have to look at all of it. It's got to be working and plugged in and operational.
Operational at a certain age, too. I mean, if it was a pizza oven and if it was 50 years old, I mean, you're not going to give you a lot for that. But if it's only 5, 10 years old, I mean, you could get some proceeds for that as well.
Yeah, but those old pizza ovens make a better pizza.
You're right, they do, but they probably don't last as long.
All right, so how did you get into Fidelity? What is your background? And where are you located, and what's your LinkedIn page, or somehow for people to find you?
The LinkedIn page, and I got a web page, it's www.fidelityfinancesolutions.com. LinkedIn is the same thing, Fidelity Finance Solutions. You can see me on LinkedIn. Facebook is the same thing, Fidelity Finance Solutions. So I use the same name on all the different social media platforms.
Okay, and you're John Frasco, you're local, and you're an active member of the Waterbury Regional Chamber.
Yes, I am. I've been a member for, 3 years now?
Really? That's how I met you.
Yeah, that's where we met. Wasn't it at the Crystal Room somewhere?
Oh, what a good memory. Most likely. I've been a member of the Waterbury Regional Chamber for my whole career, so that's probably, I've been a commercial real estate lender for 40 years, but I've always found the chamber to be really, really handy.
It is. It's very, It's great for networking. It's good for if you talk to people within your field. If you have a question about something that you're working on that you probably don't know how to do, a lot of times they have different experience. They give you some advice. They tell you where to look. They give you another connection. So there's a lot of benefits to being within the chamber. I found it very beneficial.
I like it. Okay, so their next lending product is purchase order financing. Tell us about it.
Purchase order financing is, let's say if you can provide a purchase order that you have to make so many units. Usually, I had this with a manufacturing facility. They had to make a part, and they had a purchase order for 10,000 of these parts. So they wanted to get a purchase order loan in order so that they could buy the material so that they could produce the parts. So what they had to do is they obviously look at their net income, look at their credit score, and then they looked at this purchase order to show that they had to make these 10,000 parts, and then in the future they'd sell them and how much they would sell them for. So it wasn't very risky to the lender because he already had that purchase order available. It was authentic. They verified it, and then they gave him the loan so that he could buy the raw materials to produce the parts.
All right, so are you called a mortgage broker? What's the term of you in the business?
Commercial broker.
Commercial broker. And you know where to go with each one of these products for a source to get the money for the client or customer, however you're classifying him or
Yes,
her.
I have over 40, well, actually it's over 60 now, of different private lenders in each facet of commercial lending. And if somebody says to me, like, they need a real estate loan, I just go to my section of my book. I keep a notebook with all the names, contact information, and I'd go into real estate. If it's purchase order, that's another section. I go in there and I look at all the different private lenders that handle purchase order
Must take
financing.
time to keep all that in order and find. Are you always finding new sources? Some drop, some
Always. And
add up or enter the field?
usually how not only that is some of them break away. I'm working for company A, now I'm going to company B. That's a new
Contact for you.
contact. Sometimes they contact me, say, I see that you do real estate loans. Could you consider us if you ever have one? I mean, I've got it that way. Sometimes if it's unique, like say you get a client that's rather unique, what I will is ask one of these private lenders, is this something that you do? If they say, no, it isn't, I'll ask them, well, do you know of anybody that does it? And they'll make a recommendation that way. There's a new lender that way. So it's more like it's an ongoing event that you're always finding new and different private lenders.
If you'd like to ask John a question, we're live here at Brass City TV. It's Tom Hill Live. I'm Tom. This is John, 203-753-7593. It's on the screen here and there. And all right, so going down the products, the next one is SBA loans.
SBA loans, very popular, especially with people starting a new business. There's a lot of benefits to getting an SBA loan. One of the benefits of an SBA loan is, let me go back so I can go forward on this one. A lot of times, you'll see people that are in one field but want to start a business in another field. You may see an accountant that wants to start a business. He wants to be a chef or a restaurant.
Anything's possible in this world.
Okay, that's true. I mean, he may have had a lot of experience cooking in his home, or just he took it up and took a couple of classes and enjoyed cooking, and it's probably a good fit for him. In the commercial lending sector, they will not grant him a loan just based on the fact that he cooks, let's say, not professionally. So the SBA loans, they will entertain if you ever worked in the field or you have some prior experience in whatever capacity. So their parameters are a little less stringent on what you've done previously, or do you have any experience within that profession that you're opening the business. So I mean, that's one of the big benefits of the SBA loan. Another benefit is they're insured by 25% by the government, which is another benefit of the SBA loan. They're
Sharing the risk.
Yeah, they're sharing the risk. They know they're going to get some portion of their money back. I mean, if they're in a case of a default. Usually the SBA loans comes in two different types. One is your 7A, which is your most popular, and then there's a 504. The 7A, the only drawback I see to it is it's at a variable rate of interest. Now, the interest rate doesn't change yearly, it changes every quarter. So if their interest rates are going up, your payment's going to change every 3 months.
And
so that's a drawback.
John's been on my podcast, and TomHillRadio.com. We have a couple with him, and he explains how interest rates work, what's good about them, what you have to watch out for. So he is a real expert, and that's why I have him on Tom Hill Live here tonight. Because everybody, it seems like everybody needs to borrow money for something if you're in business. Not everybody has more cash than they need.
You'll never have as much cash as you need. And it's always good for leverage. You always to leverage your finances. But the SBA loan, I mean, they're usually, a little bit more liberal. They'll work with you. Sometimes they'll give you a loan for if you're buying a business, plus they'll give you some additional money for working capital when you start out.
Love it.
So, I mean, they're very helpful. So, I mean, if you're starting out and you're getting your first loan, that's probably a good place to start. I would highly recommend an SBA loan.
And you can call John for that. And the Small Business Administration lending, I use the SBA 504 loan for
real
users of
estate.
commercial real estate to buy a building, and they have the same flexibility there. If the numbers all pencil out, they'll give you the money to do the tenant improvements, like build out your office, put in an extra loading dock, and they'll also let you buy furniture, fixtures, and equipment with that loan. So it's very handy. And do you agree with me on that?
Not only do they help you out, they'll also advise you. They'll tell you, here's what you should be doing, and they'll give you some good guidance, because a lot of times when people start out, there's a lot of things that they're unfamiliar with, and that advice saves you money in the long run.
Well, that's why I always like talking to you, because you're deep in the how-to, why, this is how it works. And also on our podcast, if you want to go deeper down this rabbit hole that could make money for you, you really get into the client side. Do they have enough money? How's their credit? And how do you match that with the lender, which I guess could be a question.
Yeah, a lot of people when they get, here's a common occurrence, and you probably see this in commercial real estate as well. People want to buy something, some type of asset, and they think, well, just because I need $1 million, that's what the lender should give me. Well, well, it's true. And I see that a lot. And basically, let's change perspective and let's look at it what the lender's looking at it, how he looks at it. All they're looking at is, are you going to be able to pay them back?
On time.
On time.
As agreed.
As agreed. That's, part of the,
the document.
contracts.
Yep.
And so how do they do this? What is their procedures? Well, one thing they're going to check is your cash flow. Do you have enough monthly income or cash flow to pay for the loan? And a little extras as well. I mean, it's not going to be value for value. The next thing they always check for, and this is a big snafu for a lot of people, is your credit score. And a lot of people say, well, why are they checking my credit score? I may have had problems. Basically what it is they check your cash flow because that's your ability to pay. Your credit score is your willingness to pay.
Exactly. Well put.
Because if you don't want to pay, even though you have the money, you're not going to pay the lender, and that's what they're concerned with. So having a high credit score is never a disadvantage. Now, a lot of people do run into problems. I mean, from time to time. I mean, when we were doing the podcast, I told of a case where I mailed in a payment. It got lost in the mail. It got there maybe a couple days late, and it dropped my credit score 50 points immediately. So, I mean, if you ran through a bad stretch, I mean, I can understand your credit score dropping.
The client needs to be able to explain that as well. And then maybe there's, I don't know, are these credit repair agencies worth looking at?
I'm sure some of them are good.
Yeah,
I think
some-
others of them are probably a little smoke and mirrors. What I would suggest is always pay your bills on time. I would also suggest never use more than 30% of the available balance on your credit cards. Always keep it below 30%. That's good. What's better is if you pay it off every month. I mean, I know that's a big detriment to your finances, and nobody wants to pay off your credit, but pay it off, especially if you're going to apply for a loan. It shows that you're not carrying a lot of debt. It shows that you can handle credit. It shows that you can pay your debt.
You pay on time. This is why we invited John here. Tom Hill, John Frasco, Tom Hill Live here at Brass City TV. Your next product is security-based lending.
I don't get too many calls for this, but I think this is probably one of the best types of commercial loans you can get. Basically what they do is, if you have, let's say you have some securities, some equity or stocks, and you want to make a loan against it, they will loan up to 90% of the value of your equity or your stocks.
Called securities.
Securities. They will also, they only are charging, the interest rate on the loan is only 6%. It's extremely low for a commercial loan. And
In today's economy, for sure.
yeah, in most, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but definitely in today's. But the benefit is, even though you have those stocks that are going to be pledged into the lender, if the stock goes up, you still get that capital appreciation and dividends. So you're still making money on those securities while they're being held by the lender. I mean, I don't think you can beat that.
I love it. That's another little example of that is I was talking with someone yesterday who said, geez, I got a pile of money sitting around doing nothing. I'd like to buy a building. So everybody's finding one of these products and a way to make your money work for you versus you working.
Yeah, that's like I said in the podcast, Warren Buffett said the best way to make money is while you're sleeping. You want your money working for you constantly.
But picking the right product and the right investment is the key to that. So your next one, the next product you offer in lending is leasing. And what does that entail?
Leasing is an area that I think a lot of commercial businesses really don't take as much advantage as they should. Basically, when you have a lease, there's two types of leases. There's an operating lease and there's a capital lease. If you get an operating lease, it is no different than renting something. Like say you're renting a backhoe or a car.
Yeah, right.
It's the same thing.
Yep.
You really don't own it. You're just paying to operate it.
Oh, it makes sense.
Right. There's another one which is a capital lease. The capital lease is as if you own it. So you have to take care of the maintenance, the insurance, the repairs, and everything like
In
that.
commercial real estate, that'd be a triple net lease,
Or a triple net.
negotiated in the lease to what your responsibilities were and how much maintenance and what. And you need a list of that because that's, I know on a car lease, if you don't get the oil changed on time because they watch it and
yeah.
record it, they could invalidate your lease.
Exactly. Or if you go over the mileage or something like, there's always some parameters.
So that's the capital lease.
Yeah, that would be a capital lease. And I think in operating leases, if you're buying something like, say, this restaurant we were talking about earlier, if they wanted to buy a new refrigerator or something, or an ice maker or something like that, they could they could lease it, and get an operating lease. The best thing about that is if the equipment should break down or need repairs, the lender has to provide
Yeah.
the repairs and the.
And if it's new equipment, it probably comes with a warranty, and the manufacturer's got to send one of their techs out.
Or they'll send a new
Interesting.
one.
Good points.
I mean, it saves you some headaches, and I mean, I think anytime you could save headaches in business, that's a positive thing.
So that's a operating lease versus a capital lease, and
Okay.
you will loan the money for that if people. And is there a lease or two you did in the last year or two that fits this?
I did a lease with a guy who was buying a backhoe. What he wanted to do was he wanted to expand his business, so he wanted to lease a backhoe. So he gave us a purchase order of which one he wanted, what company was buying it, where it was located. Sent it into the lender. They purchased it, and then sent it back to the.
And he wanted to do his own excavating or something along those lines?
He had a landscaping business. He just
perfect.
wanted. I think he was expanding. He was getting another partner. They were going to split. He was going to do half. This guy was going to do the other
Big
half.
holes to put the bushes in and
Yeah,
et cetera. My son's an electrician, and he's got a bunch of equipment because a lot of this, putting wires in and poles up, and you got to dig the ground, and then he's got to wait 2 weeks for somebody to come. So he's got all his own equipment to do.
And it's
that.
a lot easier with a backhoe than it is with a shovel.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, so that was leasing. Any phone calls? 203-753-7593. Feel free to call on any subject with on topic, the products we're talking about, commercial real estate, business, etc. Okay, the next one is the field that I'm in, but not a lender. I'm a broker. Commercial real estate lending.
Commercial real estate lending, yeah, I was getting a lot of refinance. A lot of times when the interest rates dropped, that people wanted to try to get a little lower their payment or shorten the term or things like that. So I was getting a lot of real estate refinances. And that basically goes, they look at the loan. They usually don't like to have two loans. There's always first position, second position. So if you're refinancing and you got two loans, what they're going to do is they're going to come in and give you one loan that's going to take both of those loans over.
Got it.
And you could actually get a little cash out on that too if you have equity in the building. So you could actually put some money in your pocket with a refinance.
And what's the tax consequences of cash out?
It's free.
Yeah. Bingo. You're not.
That's the way.
No tax on it.
Like a lot of people say, if you have a building and it appreciates 20%, how do you get that value? Well, you do a cash out and you put the money in your pocket.
Yeah, or buy stock with it or some other.
You could, yeah. I mean, once you get it out, it might as well put it to work somewhere else, right?
So we were talking about your SBA. Some of that SBA product transfers down into the commercial real estate lending.
Exactly. I mean, if you want to get a commercial building, you can get an SBA loan on that as well. You get a 504, especially if it's over $1 million. That's probably one of the better ways to go, especially if you're first starting, because they do give some consulting advice as well.
Stay with us, because as we get into the hour, we're going to go back to some of these and more case studies and what's going on in the world, et cetera. And just to show you how experienced John is, I never put an agenda for tonight's show on. We were both busy. We're working professionals. I met him in the lobby, and we started talking, well, what have we talked about lately? What are we doing? And we had a couple of pages, and now I just put this into order on my trusty notebook, and here we go. So bear with us. And again, the phone lines are open, and the number's up there if you want to give us a call. Okay, the next one is consulting, because behind all these products, I think a lot of people need some advice of what the product is that we're talking about. Then again, the use of it and how to deal with it, and does it fit their books and records and their cash flow? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I mean, a lot of people, when they want a loan, they just don't know exactly what they want or what they should be getting, because there's different options. Now, in the lending, let's say, market, sometimes they will push, let's say, a business to a financial instrument that's more beneficial to the lender than it is to the
There we go.
business. I mean, I'm not trying to
That's why I
knock
like
anybody.
you, because you're always concerned about your person that's borrowing the money more than just the loan.
Well, I could tell you the story about the doctor that got sick. I mean, we said that one on the podcast. Is that worth repeating here?
Of course, and I don't remember.
You don't remember? All right. Well, good. This will be a
You got a new
refreshing
audience.
buzz. There was a doctor. He had a practice. He was making. He had over $100,000 a month.
In cash flow.
Yeah, in cash flow and billing, and he was doing quite well. He had a practice for a good number of years, and he got sick, and the sickness would keep him from his practice.
So he didn't have a backup in the office that could cover him.
Right. So
That's the problem with a solo practitioner.
yes. So what he did was, while he was recovering, he talked to a couple other doctors in the area and said, "Could you take on some of my clients while I'm recovering?" And as I said to you before, if you have your practice and you're taking someone else's practice, your practice is first priority. So,
Yeah,
you know,
his patients were probably going to the back of the line.
they were at the very back of the
Yep.
line, I'm sure. If you know now, if you make a doctor's appointment, it takes 6 months. Could you imagine if you're second in line?
Well, not if you're a real pain in the neck.
Well,
and
well-
offer to take a. Never mind. Keep going.
I don't want to go down
Yeah, I don't
that
want to
road.
get into it either. It is a lot of weight to get to a doctor today.
Right. So anyway, he did lose business while he was away because these doctors weren't taking care of his patients. They went to other doctors. And, you know, when you go to another doctor, now you're happy with the new doctor. You don't go back to the old one. So he lost a lot of his money. He also had a commercial building. He had some problems there. People weren't paying.
Is there a loan here?
Well, I was going to tell you. I'm getting to it. I got to give you the background
There
here
we go.
first. So he went to a bank, a local bank, and he said, you know, I need some cash flow. I need some working capital just to keep things going. So they offered him an MCA, which is a merchant's cash account. And what this does is it looks at how much cash flow, and they give you some type of amount of money. And then they say to you, well, we don't have an interest rate, we have a factor rate, and the factor rate works from 1.27 to 1.49. So if you equate that to a percentage, they're paying between 27 and 49%.
And they don't want to tell you the rate's that high.
That's why they say it's a factor rate.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other part that gets bad. Well, when you sign up for this and you got a contract, you don't pay them. They just go into your account either daily, weekly, or every 2 weeks and take their money out.
Is that like when you put a product on your credit card that you saw on TV and they take the money out every month for your payment? It just multiplied?
It's worse than that because it's either daily, weekly, or every 2 weeks. So they're taking out much faster. And as I said, well, this doctor needed the money. Well, now they're taking the money away from him faster, right? Because say he borrowed $10,000, right? Now they're taking, almost $15,000, $20,000 away from him. So what does he do? He gets another MCA because it was quick and easy, And I used to say to people, if the money comes easy and fast, the money in your wallet will be a memory of the past, because MCAs will drain your wallet. So he had about 6 of them.
He probably had no choice, and he didn't know enough about looking at products and getting financing.
I know, but I mean, I'm saying if he
That's why you're here.
If he came to me, I would have said, look, there's a better option.
Yes.
We'll look at leasing something, or let's look at giving you a term loan or a short-term loan or something like that. I wouldn't send them to an MCA.
This is the consulting side of John. This guy's sharp, and whenever I see him, and there's some other things I do with him that, we start rapping about business and we find solutions to help people.
Yeah, but I mean, I think if you think about this, let's look at this doctor. Now, he went to this bank and they gave him an MCA. Do you think he's going to ever go back to them again?
No.
No, because he knows that hurt him more than it helped him. So with me, I like my reputation to be pure, or as pure as it can be. I would never recommend anything like that to one of my clients.
Well, we know lenders in the commercial real estate that lend to own. They'll lend people money, and they're not banks, but they're called hard money lenders. They'll lend to people hoping that they get the real estate after, which is, tough. And if you're not getting advice and you're in trouble, you end up getting in more trouble by choosing the wrong loan. or lender.
Exactly. When you're in trouble, you're more susceptible to some of these scams because you're in desperate need, and desperate need means desperate action.
All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 products so far from John Frasco at Fidelity. He's on his own. He's in Prospect. He's a Waterbury Chamber member. I brought him on the program to try to educate people. Okay, equipment loans.
Equipment loans, I think we already discussed this, but basically when you want to buy a piece of equipment, oh, wait a minute. I was thinking leasing.
This is a new topic.
New topic, all right, equipment loans. Basically what they're doing is it's similar to leasing. They're going to ask for, if you're usually buying some type of major asset, tools and equipment, something like that, they're going to want to see the purchase order for it or a copy of it. You send that to the lender. They'll look at that. They'll verify it. They'll also ask you if you need any additional financial resources for setting up or transportation or
Install,
fixing it.
Installing it. It costs a fortune to get something moved now.
Well, sometimes if it's a major piece of equipment, you need like a
millwright
millwright or a rigger, somebody to come in there to hook it up and get it so it's functional. So I mean, they'll actually give additional resources for that. That's pretty much cut and dry. That's not really that bad.
It's helpful if you need a new machine. Hello, okay. So it's now time.
And don't forget, it doesn't have to be new. It could be used as well. They'll give you used equipment as well. They do check how good the equipment is.
Okay, we have a call. Hi, you're on line 1 with John Frasco and Tom Hill. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, evening, gentlemen. I'll ask my question and take your answer off air. I see a lot of vacant buildings downtown in Waterbury. Are there any programs or special loans for people who want to start a business?
Oh, I'm glad
downtown area?
I'm so glad you called. We've been talking about the Waterbury Regional Chamber. They teamed with, I think, some banks in the city to do storefront loans, and Hartford just announced that as well. And the Hartford one is fresh in my mind from reading the Rep Am. The landlord or the tenant can put up $250,000, and the lender from Hartford will give them $250,000 that you don't have to pay back as long as you stay in business for 5 years. So that's one. Waterbury Chamber has, I think, 50 to 100,000, but they need the landlord to match it. So John can talk about strings on loans that you have to be careful of.
Yeah, a lot of times there's prepayment penalties. There's conditions of how much it's got to be stabilized and things like that. So I mean, if you're getting a loan on a building that's vacant, you should have it stabilized. So basically what it's saying is if you have 5 units, all 5 units have to be rented.
And don't have your divorce lawyer or your compensation lawyer. Get a real estate lawyer that practices lending and financing as his regular practice so you can look at the loan. Read the loan documents yourself. Am I getting to where you need to be, caller?
Most definitely. I thank you so much. Keep up the good work, guys.
Thanks so much for calling. Yeah, and the other thing is these downtowns are under competition by all the malls with loads of free parking all over the place. The downtown used to be the center of everything. I'm going to ask you to comment on this for a second in a minute, but if you read the Rep Am Sunday paper a week or two ago, there was an amazing expose about all the apartments that are being converted by old, rundown buildings that are vacant, talking about the vacant storefronts. And if there's way more people living in downtown, the storefronts won't be vacant.
Exactly. There's a shortage of apartments in Connecticut, period. And I mean, if you're looking for an apartment, you really got to do a search. So why not take these vacant buildings and convert them into apartments? Or another thing that they like to do is assisted living, where it's housing for the elderly. I mean, I don't understand why there's not more of it.
I sold a big piece of land. Actually, it wasn't a big piece of land. It was only a couple acres in Naugatuck in the Union City section. You can see it along Route 8. Now it's 5 stories, kind care.
Yeah, kind
And the Naugatuck Chamber had an open house there. And our guest last week, Chris Davis, went down and played with another great Steve Moran sax player. And the 3D Academy was kind of helping with all that. That's the Music Academy from Will Davis to bring some entertainment. And they had another guitar player on the top floor. But the point was, it's brand new. It's discount assisted living for old folks that can't stay home and can get a meal and get some help.
Yeah, and there's usually medical assistants and nurses on hand
call.
or something like that. Or they usually have one in the building.
I'm not surprised, but this is a newer technique than a convalescent home that's full service,
Yeah.
where the assisted livings are like hotels.
And plus, I think there's an advantage, whereas a lot of the elderly like to be around people their own age, and here they're in an apartment complex where people of the similar age.
They showed a two-bedroom because some of the kind care concept is if you know somebody you like, you can split the cost of the apartment. There are two separate bedrooms,
Okay.
so you could, because these things aren't cheap. They're very expensive because of the service, and I mean it's a multi-million-dollar building. Beautiful. The finishes were awesome.
Yeah, I've been in there. Susan Sloan was giving tours of that.
Not
a couple of
surprised.
times.
They did a great job. It was a great opening party, and they had the chef that makes the food for the residents make all kinds of food for the guests. There were hundreds of people to show how good the cooking was. We're slightly off track, but thank you, caller. That was awesome. If there's any more, our number's 203-753-7593. On topic as best as you can. We were talking about all the different loan products with John. And now I'm moving to another comment we had before we went on the air when we were kind of talking about what we talk about tonight. People dream about opening or owning a business.
It's true. I mean, I think a lot of people have worked in a company or something. They think, well, I could do it better, or I could do it better than the current management, or I have different ideas which I think are better, and they want to start a business. I do think, though, you should have some business experience. Maybe you should get some education, like an entrepreneurial class or something like that, before you actually start. If you're unsure, I think maybe a safer route is to go through via a franchise. Because when you buy a franchise about a particular business, they do have training and they have ongoing support. So you're going to run into a few snafus when you start business. So here's a source that will give you some advice that will probably put you on the right track.
And don't sign these documents without talking to a guy like John for the business terms and what's going on with it, or me. But when you're going to sign the final documents, you really want to have an attorney
Always
that
go through it.
specializes in franchises. Because now you were talking about specialties. Attorneyism is a specialty now. They all work and what they know and you want somebody who does it every day. Otherwise, you're going to, they're not going to goof you up on purpose. But somebody said it's going to cost you more money with their fees because they got to read books and look up what's legal or call their friends, and you're not getting as most. So get an attorney that does the type of situation or the documents for the franchise. Since John mentioned that one. That's what I would say. And right now, under this Get Educated, there's one more. I brought a book today. It's called Save or Slave, and it's by Christopher Pollard. He's a CCIM like me, Certified Commercial Investment Member, but he's a young guy, and he wrote this book called Save or Slave, How to Save Money Like Your Freedom Depends on It. And the point of this book is there's all kinds of techniques for anything you're going to do in business or buy a car or buy a house. And it's a great way, John was saying, bone up on something, which also, you were talking about some ways to take classes for financial, and maybe you could expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, there's always a class on entrepreneurship. There's always classes on finance. There's always classes on reading financial statements and understanding finance. I think a lot of people don't understand finances as well as they think. And I often use the question to people, and I would say, well, let's just take a hypothetical situation. Let's say you had a sum of money, really doesn't matter how much it is, and you're getting 5% interest on it. But you're going to take out 6% every year. How long would the money last? And most people say, well, 2 years, 3 years, 8 years. I've had accountants say, well, it's 10 years. Well, the real answer is it's actually 28 years. So, I mean, even though your perception of how short it would be is actually incorrect. And I think people have other misconceptions when they look at some financial statements as well. Maybe they think they're doing better, but when you really look at the full scope of everything, they're not doing as well as they think.
Yeah, and there's courses all over the place in the local colleges, community colleges, how to read a financial statement. So that's a good one. And I'm moving ahead, though, because we got talking about people that are really brainy at financing. And, everybody's talking about Donald Trump. And he's got a master in business administration from Wharton.
Yes.
I follow a guy in real estate named Bob Knackel who has the same MBA from Wharton. All these folks on Wall Street and people that own these big businesses. Salim Noujaim has a master's in business. So our former state representative was winning the neighborhood award at the Waterbury Neighborhood Council right now at Bella Vista. We commented a little bit. You had some different thoughts and added to this discussion when we were getting ready for the show.
Yeah, I think an MBA is a great degree to get, and I think everybody should get an MBA. I mean, even if you're in some other field, because the thing is that they teach you a little bit about accounting, they teach you a little bit about marketing, they teach you a little bit about management, and they teach you a little bit about general business. And I don't think that these are ideas that a lot of people have. I don't think just because you go in the store and buy something, you really understand the business behind it.
Good point.
So I mean, I think always a little information can go a long way, and it can either save you money or make you money.
Tower of Power.
You got it.
A little information is a dangerous thing.
Or
Or
it
no, a
can be.
little education is a dangerous thing.
It
So
can
what,
be.
what we're saying is you need more than a little education, especially in exactly what you're trying to do. So without anybody throwing anything at me, I'm going to cross off the Donald Trump MBA story from Wharton. And I think Wharton's in PA. And I always look for that because that indicates somebody has got a lot of, maybe I'll go away from the smarts, but go back to what John, a little information on a lot of things. And with the MBA, it's more than a little information.
It is.
And they go further too if they think they need to.
Well, I think, when you go and you get educated, that's your foundation. That's not everything. That's just your foundation. You do have to expand upon that through experience or additional research.
Yeah. Who's the writer that said the Beatles were successful because they already had 10,000 hours of experience playing? Malcolm Gladwell.
All right, that's-
He's written a bunch of really easy to read, cool books. Tell stories like John does. Malcolm Gladwell.
Gladwell.
Got a lot of good books out there. Okay, so let's just go back just a touch. The use of credit in business, and then banks versus what you do as an expert in private lending or other sources of money.
Well,
Or
usually,
receiving them from borrowing or getting an investor, etc.
usually your larger banks, they've been proven, they've got experience. They're not looking for risk. They're trying to take the cream of the crop. They want the borrowers on the top that have good cash flow, have high credit scores, have plenty of assets. They've been proven that they're going to pay any loan they get.
In other words, they don't really need the money.
well, they need it as leverage.
Yes, not as just because they need it.
Yeah, not in desperation. Let's put it that way.
Good way to put it.
So, I mean, they're taking, the best of the best. Whereas when you go to the private lending sector, they're down a level. They're taking some of the people that may have had not as much cash flow, maybe a little lower credit score, maybe not as much assets, maybe they're just starting out.
Is that under don't qualify for the bank?
That's didn't qualify.
Okay,
under the
don't,
major.
didn't. Yeah, very good. 15 minutes to go if you want to call 203-753-7593 here at Brass City TV. Carry on, dude.
All right, where would you want me to go from that?
I just want the private versus the bank. You talked earlier about other sources, and a lot of people say, I have an investor, and I think you talked earlier about angel investors, but just talk about a little bit of how people should be careful when they have an investor that's going to jump in with them in their business versus the private lender or the bank.
Yes, I mean, the lenders are regulated, whereas your investors are not. And sometimes they're predatory, whereas when you bring them in and as an investor, if things start to falter, they take over.
I told you not to be negative.
Well, all right. They do better than you will. Is that better?
Yes, perfect.
A lot of times people, when they need a business partner or they can't get a loan, they'll go to an angel investor. You can search online for them. Basically, what is an investor that's going to put up some of his money, but they usually take a lot of ownership, too.
Yeah, you'll find sometimes they want control. So, all right, so we're talking about hiring an attorney to help you that you trust and is specialized in your field. You're really good with books and records. Could you talk about why people should have a CPA and whether those people could help you with some of these things as well? Once you think you're going to really do the business, I don't think you want to go in too early.
Yeah. Usually what happens is when a CPA, they know what accounts to put in what box. So what they do is they put your income in the right orientation. They put your expenses in the orientation. That's really not that hard to do. What they're also taught is a series of ratios: your income to debt, your inventory turnover, your
Metrics.
assets to equity, those type of metrics. And they look at those, and then when they see something dropping, they usually indicate that this is the first sign of danger. So maybe your sales are too low, or maybe your expenses are too high. Maybe you should start curbing certain expenses. Or maybe your taxes are high. Maybe you should try to defer some of your taxes, maybe like lease instead of borrow. You know, that may be a way of deferring some of your taxes.
And this is where I introduced you to my friend from Trumbull.
Mike.
It's a bookkeeper. And he got into this great conversation with me, and he said, we spread people's books out and doing exactly what you said. What are your sales? What's your marketing? What's coming in over here? Did you lose money last year? John, you're spot on. That's why I introduced you to him, because you get this stuff. And I think people need to use professionals, and you got to build the cost of the professionals into your deal. Just like if you buy a building, you need to put money out of the rent away every month for reserves for maintenance and repairs. The roof's going to go in 15 years.
Or even if you have equipment, you know, like if you have a backhoe or something, you know hoses are going to go, or you're going to need additional hydraulic fluid, or a tire's going to get damaged. So you have to have some of those resources available. And if you're tracking, hey, this tire's been on for X amount of hours, you know, wait, it's about time to get replaced. So I mean, that puts you ahead of the curve on expenses and things. So you're ready for and prepared for it.
Right. So some people may be watching this and going, "Why would I want to go in business?" So would you talk a little bit about people you know in the chamber that have a job for somebody, and what's the other side of owning a business versus having a good job that pays you well?
Remember I told you the story about the Chinese emperor?
You're full of stories.
No, well, I'm full of a lot of things, but we'll go with the stories for tonight. The Chinese emperor, they asked him why people don't go into a business, and he said, well, if you have a table and you put on money on one side and bananas on the other, and you put a monkey in front of it, the monkey will always take the bananas instead of the money, even though he could buy more bananas with the money. He said humans are like that also. If you put a business on one side and a job on the other side, most humans will take the job instead of the business, even though they'll make more money with the business. Reason being, it's more risky. You got to have courage. You're going to have to expand your learning. You're going to have to expand. It's going to take you a lot more time. Right. You're going to have to be disciplined. You're going to have to deal with hardship a little bit. You're going to have to take chances. These are things that most people really don't want to. You're going to have staffing problems. You're going to have people that come and go and argue with you. You know, that's all part of a business.
Or cooperate and become great employees. Told you don't be negative.
No, all right. Well, it could happen, but I'm saying...
I'm wicked positive, but you're right. You got to watch out. In CCIM, I have my pin on here somewhere, commercial investment member. They taught us to plan for what could go wrong and be ready for it. So you're right on. That's why I like to have you on the show.
Something I heard from Charlie Munger, I don't know if you're...
Berkshire Hathaway.
Yes.
Of course I know.
They said that his philosophy before he would want to go into a deal or purchase anything, first thing he would think was, what don't I want to happen?
There it is.
And then his plan was to situate himself so those things did not happen. So by understanding the negative, it set him up for the positive. So I mean, I'm not being negative, but I'm saying if you recognize the negative, it can put you into the positive.
Jim Smith says, tell your kids to read the Wall Street Journal, even if they just look at it, what they're interested in early, so they learn about money. But, you know, it's the same thing. If you're going to get a job, you want to get a job that you like, that pays you well, and they treat you like a human.
Yes.
Because both, whether you have your own business or you're working for somebody else, there's always challenges.
Oh, yeah, there's always
give and take. How do you overcome them, and how do you get better at what you do?
Nothing is all cherries. There's always a few pits in there. So, I mean...
Are you the Shell answer man?
I'm trying.
No, you're doing great. Brass City TV, thanks for tuning in. Tom Hill, John Frasco, we got about 6 minutes to go. Last chance for phone calls, 203-753-7593. People may remember me from WATR. I was Tom Schutz's left-hand man for 35 years, and as a host, he always said, you got to ask for the calls. And so that's, maybe I'm asking a few too many times for the calls, but we love the callers because they take the show in a whole different direction, and it's not costing you to call in and ask us a question. And this show's new, so we're not surprised that we're not getting a lot of calls, but this will be posted for your friends and relatives on Brass City TV YouTube. It'll be posted in a couple days on TomHillRadio.com, and John will work with it. And John, how do people find you on LinkedIn and your social media?
Search out Fidelity Finance Solutions on LinkedIn, Facebook, and my website is www.fidelityfinancesolutions.com.
And I recommend him. Now, with that said, I was talking about getting your MBA at Wharton and some of the real estate people I'm with, but John, you mentioned some inexpensive places in Connecticut compared to Wharton in Pennsylvania to get your MBA.
Sure. I mean, UConn has a good program. Central has a good program. Eastern and Western both have good programs. University of New Haven has a good
I
program.
think downtown Yukon has one too. I think
They
in
probably do.
Connecticut. I know they
Yeah.
have one of the big Yukon economists working downtown. I forgot. I had him on the radio, but I can't remember his name right now.
I
but
know Central has a good class on entrepreneurship, so I mean that would be a good one to take if you want to start a business. At least give
Yeah.
you some basic foundation information.
Put your toe in the water. Okay, so and also network with other people that are in business. This is where the chamber comes in. Oh, and you have a group that I participate in for networking, and I think you had a meeting this morning.
Yeah, basically what we do is we send an invite out to a bunch of businesses in the local area, and we want to network together at a restaurant. We change the location, we change the day, and we change the time. Basically what it is I found that if you go to a chamber event, a lot of times there's a large group of people, and you have to
Hundreds.
talk in front of people.
Yeah,
and-
80 to 100.
And some people are, it's not as one-to-one. So I thought if we invite them to a restaurant and you sit down, you have a coffee, maybe some breakfast, and you can talk to them. Not only do you get to know them better, you get a better connection, and it seemed like it was a more comfortable.
I went 3 or 4
format.
times. I think you do a great job. You got a lot of young people, young buckaroos that are pretty smart in there. You're John Moran, who's a financial planner.
Yeah, he's
There's
very
some
good.
interesting people.
Very capable.
Yeah, a lot of it's been fun, and I'm sorry I couldn't make it this morning. I had a conflict. I had to be in Danbury. I addressed 40 commercial real estate brokers down there and looked at a few buildings while I was out there. So, because I work a wider field these days, my specialty is a 15-mile ring around Waterbury, but Danbury's the next market, and it's busy. So
Well, that's where you
I'll
wanna
go
work.
that way. I've been in that club 40 years. Okay, you wanted to mention your friend Jim Beeland
Yeah.
with Feed the Need, and tell us about that.
I wanted to, put a plug in for Jim Beeland. He works for the Waterbury Chamber. He started a charity event. He calls it Feed the Need Northeast. And basically what they do is they get a group together once a month or every 2 weeks, and they make peanut butter jelly sandwiches, and then they distribute them out in the local area to areas where they are, need some food.
Homeless people that are
Homeless,
starving?
yeah, shelters, areas like that. And they do, they have an event where they call in people to come in and they make up the peanut butter sandwiches. They bottle them up, they send them to the shelter, and then they distribute them accordingly.
So how do we find Jim Beeland and this group?
He's got a website, www.feedtheneedne, which stands for northeast.org. And he's also on Facebook, Feed the Need and Northeast.
And if you want to meet him, he'll be in Southbury tomorrow morning at, you can look on the Waterbury Regional Chamber for the address. I think it's at a church.
Calverley
and,
Church in, Southbury. I can't remember the name of the road.
It's the one that goes to Lake Zor, I think, in the camping. But you'll get a coffee there. If you want to bring a sandwich, you can with you, and it's a great place. All right, so we got 8 minutes to go, and we have another page of notes. You might have to come back. Give me a quickie on unqualified prospects.
Usually to get qualified for a loan, as I said, the two main things, they're usually looking for a business that's been in business 2 to 3 years. Some will take 2, most will want 3 or more. They're going to look at your financial statements, and they want to see how much your monthly cash flow. They usually want it about 1.2 above your debt or your expenses. They're also going to look at your credit score. The higher your credit score, the better. You want to try to keep it above 650. I mean, if you're a little below, there are lenders that will consider it, but the interest rate is going to be significantly higher because your credit scores, your willingness to pay is lower. They're going to charge you a little more. I would strongly advise that before you take a loan, I would try to get your credit score as high as possible. Not only will it save you some money and payments, it will also make it easier for you to get qualified.
What do you think about people that might want to borrow money practicing by way early filling out a personal financial statement? I know that my friend Ralph Richard, who lives up in Wolcott, always he was a lender with Savings Bank of Danbury. He said, "Oh, we need a PFS. Fill it out." So maybe, what do you think about people filling those out ahead of time to practice to see what their situation is?
That is a good idea because that will show you all your assets and how much you probably could afford to borrow. So that's a good thing. As a matter of fact, the chamber, there's a guy that works for the chamber, Shay, I can't remember his last name.
Shay Negrain. He's from Danbury, but he goes to all the chambers, and you can call the chamber.
And ask for Shay, and actually he helps you create your personal financial statement. And that gives you a spot look at where you're standing financially.
We're networkers. We are networkers. Yeah. And so that's why we're here tonight. Okay, people ask me, before I forget, next week, Mayor Paul Pernaruski from Waterbury, he'll be here. We'll be here 7 o'clock. I'm looking forward to that. I think Paul's a super competent guy. He's probably at the neighborhood council tonight over for $50 at the Bella Vista. If you live in Waterbury, it's a good idea to belong to the neighborhood council. They're really
would
a
say
great
so.
group. Okay, so people ask me every day, especially this morning I was in Danbury, all the time, how's Waterbury? So I ask you, how's Waterbury?
Well, I think Waterbury's doing better than it has. I mean, it seems to be recovering a little bit. I think Paul has done a great job as a mayor. I think the economy's getting a little better, so I think there's a new enthusiasm and a new optimism in people. I think that's important. I've seen a lot of people starting business, so I see that as a positive sign. They think things are going to get better. They say the prices are going down on gas, maybe a little bit. I haven't seen a significant drop, but I
Got to
mean,
go to BJ's or Costco, but you got to pay to get the right to buy the gas there.
I mean, if you recall back to when the last administration, when last time Trump was in office, gas was like 198. I mean, it went rise significantly during the last administration. But I mean, they are drilling. I think they should. We should be energy independent, and I think we also used some of the solar and the wind power to use for electricity. That would drive some of the prices down as well. So.
Well, this is a whole other show. I have to call Mike Davino to come on from the old school band, Davino Brothers, and talk about gas, because he was in that gas business all his life and how gas is priced. But that's a whole other show for another day.
Well, they say the refinement is expensive too.
Yeah, I mean, everything is capital intensive.
Yeah.
What does it cost to build a refinery? And they're not building any anymore.
That's true, and I think that's, they should build a lot more, and, let's refine it quicker and get some quicker turnaround on some of the drilling.
So then drill, baby, drill?
I think so. I mean, they say it's an environmental hazard. Maybe it is, but I think they're a lot safer now than they were 20 years ago. Since they're telling them to be careful, I'm sure they're not going to be as careless as they used to be.
This is true.
So,
And
I
I
mean-
like this Zeldin guy who was a New York congressman that I think he came darn close to being governor of New York. And he is the current EPA commissioner in the cabinet. And I think he's a pretty sharp guy. But again, one of my friends says the reason a lot of people are frustrated, they don't take the time to read. And I read the Wall Street Journal every day. Where do you get your knowledge and your information? Because you seem to be plugged in.
I read the Wall Street Journal. I read.
Online or the paper?
I get the paper.
Okay, me too.
I read Barron's. I love Barron's newspaper. I mean, if you can't get the Wall Street Journal, Barron's is made by the Wall Street
Yes.
Journal. It's a magazine that comes out every weekend. Very informative, very good articles. Definitely a must for reading. I also read the paper,
Rep Am?
and I read the New York Post as well. So I mean, those four papers I read. I also listen to Fox News on my radio. Fox Business I like to listen to.
I like Fox Business.
Yeah. I mean, you get a lot of good information on there, and it's timely. So, I mean,
Yeah, you just got to take the time, but then
I think you got to have the desire to learn this stuff.
True.
If you got to have some concern.
a top residential broker that I do a lot of business with, I stopped in his office today to give him the weekend Wall Street Journal with a story about how to renovate little ranch houses and make them luxury. Because there's all these little ranch houses everywhere for people who can't afford a mansion but want something cool. And he said, how do you read all this stuff? And I said, I make time. And I block
Find a way.
out time. You read in the morning or a little bit all day.
Let me ask you a question real quick.
3 minutes, do it quick.
Okay. After World War II, they used to, when the soldiers were coming back, they built a lot of capes. Is that what they're called?
I
They were
think so.
Small two-bedroom
Yep.
houses. What I notice now is there's not a lot of, let's say, first-time home buyer housing. How come the contractors aren't building these capes? Instead of building one big house on an acre, why not build 4 capes on a quarter acre?
Well, yeah, and they're trying that, but they have to get permission from the towns, and 169 towns have all different zoning rules. But I had a call yesterday for a guy that wants to build 30 houses minimum in Waterbury. He's from New York, and any house in New York is $1 million. The houses an hour out of New York are 700,000, and he thinks he can sell them for 450, 425 in Waterbury. So we're talking about it, and you're seeing a lot of these cluster developments, and I think you'll see more of it. But the interest rates also have been really high for housing, and that slows down occupancy because the payments are too high.
Yeah, but what I notice is a lot of they say the average age to buy a house now is in the 40s.
Yeah, because they're so expensive. And
Yeah, I mean, you're putting it out of the reach of a newly married couple.
This is true.
Which I think is wrong. But I think if you did that and you opened up that new facet of the market, they would create another buyer shortly thereafter because they're going to get married, they're going to have children, they'll be too big for the house, they're going to have to buy a bigger house.
Well,
by that time, they've established equity and
I can
themselves
tell you do
financially.
a lot of reading. Great. John Fresco, just please repeat your website, social media, so that people can get a hold of you. And I know, like me, I don't charge people to listen to what they're doing and see if I can help them.
Yeah, I'm happy to give somebody a consultation or point them in the right direction if I can. The website is www.fidelityfinancesolutions.com. LinkedIn is Fidelity Finance Solutions, and the Facebook is Fidelity Finance Solutions as well.
And I'm all over those social medias, Tom Hill III. And if you want to see more of us, TomHillRadio.com. We got a couple more financial podcasts and building and taking risks with Bob the Builder from Strike Zone Studios. We'll be back here next Thursday, 7 o'clock with Mayor Pernaruski. My number is 203-755-HILL. And what's your phone number if you want to give it?
203-707-4791.
One time again.
203-707-4791.
Okay, and I'm Tom Hill, 755-HILL. Let's give him this thumbs up, John, at your camera.